Recorded live from the mats of Radical MMA in New York City. The Martial Culture Podcast. Your source for in-depth combat sports and martial arts insights with Coach Renee Dreyfus and Matt Peters. Ring the bell and let's get it on.
Stipe knockout first round.
No, you think so?
I'm going on record.
Want to make a bet?
No. You always want to bet.
You want to put the pedal to the metal. It's a good bet or not?
Not a bet. Not on that. We can find something else to bet on maybe.
Okay, let's bet on the result. Winner, lose. You take Stipe, I take Cormier. I actually don't think Cormier is going to win, but...
So you're just throwing me this one?
Yeah, I'm throwing you, yeah, you know. But I know, because it makes it more interesting. Because I'll root for him a little bit if we have a bet going.
Okay.
All right. And then
what other thing are you going to hurt me with? What malice are you holding on to if you want to hurt me? Is there something in here you can choke me with?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
We should do a whole episode on that.
Yes. A gi choke. I'll choke you with your shirt. We'll take it old school to it, the gi, old school Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Judo with the gi.
Is that where you like do a flourish and take my shirt off and then wrap
No.
it around my head or
I just
something?
choke you with your shirt right where you're wearing right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You do a lot of choking.
Yes.
Should I be worried about your wife? Is she okay?
No, you know what?
She chokes you.
She actually hurt me. We were sparring, and I was like coasting her, and then she cranked a submission really hard. I was like, if this wasn't my wife, I'd be screaming right now. But she really wants to beat me, and she listens to this podcast, so she's thinking right now, I can't believe Renee said that, but she just desperately wants to beat me. And then we're like sitting watching TV sometimes, and she'll like put a wrist lock on me or something. It's a very, very interesting marriage.
The life of a martial arts
but
family.
Those who train together stay together. It's a wonderful ride, and I'm actually very blessed that my wife trains because we share this great passion now.
Yeah.
And it's something that we can really connect with, and it both enriches both our lives,
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to introduce our children to it, and it's interesting that Henner Gracie, the grandson of Elio, his son came up to him. His son's like maybe just turned 2, and he says, "Dad, when can I do jiu-jitsu?"
Oh.
And he starts teaching him jiu-jitsu, and then there's this video of him practicing on a huge teddy bear. So he's doing like arm bars on a teddy bear. Like, oh, that's so adorable.
So
it's pretty cool.
Those little cute kids in their gis and doing the hayas and stuff.
Well, you know what? Okay, so
wait a minute. We gotta. What are the terms when you lose?
Yeah, you're right. Okay,
I'm gonna give you a monkey bite.
A monkey bite. What's a monkey bite?
It's a little pinch.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll take that. That's easy.
Well,
sure you don't want to up
like
the...
4 monkey bites.
Sure.
I don't know. I need time. I'll have something at the end of the show because you're going to choke me and I'm going to pinch you. It's not the same. All right.
I don't know. Hold on. What's a monkey bite?
I can't do it to you now.
Why not? I just want to see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is that crap?
It's a monkey bite.
I don't feel anything.
Well, you don't have any fat on you. I can't pinch you. You're in good shape.
Dude,
go eat a cheeseburger
you better
and come
up
back.
it from a monkey bite.
All right. Hey, Siri, what's better than a monkey bite? She's sleeping. All right. We were talking about
it's
people
your terrible poor luck to be paired with me on this podcast.
Well, the downloads are good, so I'll stay with it.
Well, how are our listeners?
Millions.
Millions. Well, wonderful.
Millions. Number 1 on iTunes.
My friend Sam Yang, his podcast is getting real popular too.
Yeah?
So, guys, you're listening, check it out. Must Triumph. Amazing philosophical podcast. He did a segment on Bruce Lee, which I really think everybody should listen to. It was an amazing thing, and I would like to talk about Bruce Lee a little bit today too. But let's keep it going and talk about the upcoming fight with Cormier and Stipe first.
Yeah, I've been watching some of the videos that UFC's putting out, like the behind the scenes and the trainings and things like that. It's very interesting. The whole fight, the whole card looks really good, but the Stipe and Cormier fight. I just don't see. Like Cormier, he said, if I win this belt, if I'm the light heavyweight champion and the heavyweight champion, I'll be.
Oh wait, they're fighting for light heavyweight. Oh no, Cormier
heavyweight. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but Stipe can't win the. No, right.
So if he wins, he gets the heavyweight championship, and he said, if I win the heavyweight championship, I'm the greatest fighter ever.
How does he?
I don't understand.
Well, yeah, it's fighter logic. Fighter logic is not always rational.
Having 2 belts doesn't make you the greatest fighter ever, since one of them you just got by default, which I'll never get rid of.
Right. He has never. John Jones came in with that second fight. John Jones came in against Cormier, and because his weight training his devotion to powerlifting. He was slow and sluggish, and he still, won. And so on John Jones' worst day, not training, he still makes Cormier. Although I like Cormier, I actually really respect him. I've been watching The Ultimate Fighter when he's coaching, and I think he's a great coach. Yeah. He's like, I have nothing bad to say about him. I mean, there are technical flaws though that I see, and that comes to something that I'm really interested in. And whether it's looking at Cormier, whether it's looking at Stipe, you look at these things, and it's very important that we see data. We see data, and there's some real interesting statistics. I just posted this. A guy did a study of 160 something street fights, street altercations, male versus male, male versus female versus female. So he stuck to gender equivalent, and also unarmed. And he noticed that within like 3 seconds, 4 seconds, something like that, 73 fights went to the ground. 73% of the fights went to the ground. After the 8-second mark, it was like 97% went to the ground, which is actually not something I was expecting. Of course, I do jiu-jitsu, and I think the ground technique is important to learn. And the statistics are these flaws in his statistics. If you're a statistician, you should know that there's a thing called sample error. So if you sample only a small amount of a small group, your conclusions are suspect. If you go 2 versus 2,000, obviously the 2,000 sample pool is more relevant. And so there's only a small sample of things. And he sticks to unarmed. He also sticks to what are more known as ego fights, meaning that at a lot of times these guys could have walked away. They weren't assaults, like I come from behind you and stab you, or
stepped on my sneakers and we're gonna
right,
fight.
Exactly, things like that. And it's interesting though, for the females, it went to clinch range almost immediately, because the women, he noticed almost every fight grab each other's hair. So it's some interesting conclusions. But what I like is the idea of taking these statistics and looking objectively of what's happening. And of course, each study will not be perfect, but as we accumulate these studies, you can see the differences and you can see what happens. There's also another study that just came out this morning about submission percentage in sport jiu-jitsu, which is a gi modality where they try to train to tap each other out, and then submission percentage in no-gi, particularly the EBI, Eddie Bravo's EBI rules, without the combat jiu-jitsu. And the number one finish in EBI is heel hook right now. And again, it's a small sample size. The number 2 is rear naked choke. The number 1 finish in IBJF are collar chokes, mostly from the back, and not rear naked choke. But still, rear naked choke was there. But it's like interesting that depending on the rules, obviously the statistics of what's going on have changed. But if you look at MMA statistics, you'll see that by far the number 1 submission from the beginning of MMA to today, it has never changed, is rear naked choke. So it tells you something about IBJF is going in a different direction, and they're using that advantage of the collar to maximum effect, which means they're distancing themselves from what is much more effective in MMA. And heel hook's the same thing. Have never been a major finish in MMA, but in this no-gi submission format, because of the nature of the rules, no punches, it changes statistics. So again, you have to understand that these are diverging sports. The statistics show that the sports are diverging, and so it's interesting to look at that. So rules change the nature of what you're going to do, and I always like to look at the statistics of MMA. And if you look at Daniel Cormier, you look at how he fights, you look at the statistics of how he wins, how he sets up his takedowns. You look at the statistics of Stipe. You look at how he wins, how he sets up takedowns, how he finishes. On paper, statistically, Stipe is just quite much more dominant, has more advantage. And Daniel Cormier has some flaws that are exploitable. That doesn't mean he's not a great fighter. He's great. Sure. But I can't see a way for Daniel Cormier to come out with this win, and I also can't see a way for Daniel Cormier to beat John Jones unless John Jones comes in with like a blindfold and an arm tied behind his back, and that's not to put down Daniel Cormier. It's just dude, you got to work on these statistics. Don't lie. Yeah. When you're throwing punches like this and you are not getting, like you hit a guy right in the face and you're not getting knockdowns, means you have some problem with your generation of power. And when you get hit back and you're like, oh. And you get cracked with the high kicks. And, when you can't get a takedown, so they did some surveys. I remember somebody, BJ Scout or someone did a survey of Daniel Cormier. When he can't get takedowns, he struggles. So if he has trouble striking, he takes you down. If he has trouble striking and can't take you down, wow, well, where are you going to do? And, his majority of his finishes are set up from top crucifix and side control, which is a great position. But he doesn't have this massive, diverse set of skills. And MMA is working towards that direction where you need to be more of a generalist, more of a renaissance man. Mm-hmm. And you definitely have to have some core skills, but you need to have a broader set. And Daniel Cormier has been, because of his athleticism, because of his amazing wrestling, he's been able to stick to certain things that really work for him. But I don't see him picking Stipe up and throwing him like he did. No, Stipe is a really good wrestler and a better boxer with more generation of power. So objectively looking, I give Stipe the advantage. Then again, a fight's a fight. You never know what could happen. You never know what the weight cut could be. Well, I don't know how much. I don't know if Stipe actually cuts weight for heavyweight, but you never know what the pre-fight camp was like, or whatever. There's so many variables, so many factors. Mm-hmm. In my personal journey, I remember thinking, oh, it's going to go like this and this and this, and everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Mike Tyson. Once you just like, okay, that went out the window. Yeah. That's not what I thought this was going to be. Yeah. So, but I like to look at the data and have a very objective view, and I just don't see Cormier winning. But I don't think it'll stay in the first round. I think it'll go to a decision where, because Cormier is tough, it'll decision and where Stipe will have dominated most of the rounds with striking. After and predominantly, I think it'll go against there'll be a lot of cage work. Not predominantly, but there'll be a lot of cage work. Mm-hmm. Stipe will extricate himself from the cage and then score with boxing. And I don't think Daniel Cormier will have such an easy time taking him down or keeping him down. Yeah. And Cormier's striking, while effective, is not.
He has a knockout. I mean, he's not really knockout power.
No. It does not, because he has technical flaws. He doesn't generate power properly, and he doesn't move properly. And Stipe does. So you're dealing with a guy whose wrestling is, maybe Cormier has a little bit of an edge, but MMA wrestling is different from regular wrestling. And Stipe is no wrestling slouch, and you're dealing with a guy who has better boxing. Mm-hmm. And then I don't think Cormier can hold Stipe on the ground and submit him.
No.
Just don't think that.
He's going to run out of energy real quick.
Yeah.
If he tries to do that.
Yeah. And Cormier, at the end of the day, Cormier should not be fighting at heavyweight. Just not. He shouldn't. I don't think he should. He's just.
He is a heavyweight, though.
When he goes to Popeye's Chicken. But did you see the Ultimate Fighter when they were playing hockey? Did you see that? Okay, so let me tell you what happened. Yeah. This is actually interesting because Cormier, athletically, really. He intrigues me, and I want to root for him. So I hope Daniel Cormier is listening. He's like, that guy Renee really fucking hates, I don't want him to take that way, because I'm actually a big fan of his, and especially his wrestling, and also his attitude and his his carriage, the way he comports himself as a champion is just a great guy, and a coach as well. But what impressed me was they were this Ultimate Fighter, which I generally don't watch anything other than the fights. I fast forward to the coaching. I watch the coaching and then I watch the fight. But they had this, this coach's challenge thing. And Daniel Cormier has never been on ice skates really in his life. And they made a hockey game. And Stipe is a hockey guy. Like, he's not, I don't think he's a great hockey guy, but he's played hockey and stuff like that, right? I don't know. Is hockey big in Ohio?
Yeah. Well, anywhere there's snow. Lots of snow.
Yeah. It seems like, Lake Erie, right. And, so they had a hockey face-off, and so they have to score one. They get 10 shots, and you have to score the person who scores more goals. Mm-hmm. And Daniel Cormier cannot even stand on his ice skates, and he can't even stand up. So he's shooting the puck, and he'll fall over, and he has to be pulled back up because he can't actually even skate. Sure. And it's so interesting because as I was watching, you can see how good an athlete he is, how his brain is like. Computing, and as he's going, he's better and better. And you know who won that challenge? Oh my God, Daniel Cormier beat Stipe in the challenge, and he got a couple shots in, and then they switched, and he was the goalie, and he can't even stand. But as he's doing, he's blocking shots, and come back win. And Stipe was like, "This is freaking crazy." But it just shows that how you put him in an athletic context, and his body can adapt. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. A high-level athlete. Which brings me to the question is, why can't he adapt in striking? And he just has problems with his movement. He's reached his adaptation ability to adapt. Or he needs to work on someone to really sit him down, say, take a year off of fighting and just rebuild you. But that's a little bit hard to do when you're the champion. Yeah. But, he should do that. And Damian Maia should take like 2 years off and really focus on how to move better. And people make fun of Conor McGregor, and I am not a Conor McGregor fan, but Conor McGregor does something that Rickson Gracie always did, was hired a movement coach. And I think that's really important. And with my team, I'm doing the same thing. It's like, okay, we have techniques, but first we have to have these movements. We have to coach how to move your body efficiently. And Conor McGregor had that I forgot, Ido Portal was his name, and he's a little bit of a crunchy granola, yoga hippie guy. And he's interesting, but he knows his stuff. And he has him doing all these weird moves. But there's no question that Conor McGregor has a very, very, very efficient way of using his body. And I think it's amazing. And he knows that. So he's always on the cutting edge of developing that. And Rickson Gracie was the same thing. There's a thing called Gymnastica Natural, which Rickson Gracie and a lot of the Gracie family did, which is a movement system created by Professor Alvaro Romano to make jiu-jitsu guys move better and more efficiently. And they integrate yoga, some animal movement, kind of like mimicking animals, and gymnastics. And I think it's very important to move with efficiency, move with grace, move with balance, like we talked about in one of our podcasts. And
was that the podcast we made fun of Damian Maia for like an hour and a half?
It was the one we talked about the Olympics. I think.
Okay.
No, not the one we made. I like Damian Maia. I just, I got a call like I see it, and it gets me in trouble. I think
he declined to come on our show. I reached out.
Oh, you did? Oh, he declined. He's doing a seminar recently in New York soon.
Is he?
Yeah, he's actually in New York.
All right, I'll hound him some more.
Yeah, no, I don't think he'll.
I'm gonna hound him. Don't worry.
I mean, like, I have to face him, and he's gonna just be like, "You say I'm terrible," and I'm like, "Uh-oh, I'm
not
dead
terrible.
now."
You just need work.
Yeah, and I was talking to a student today, and I'm very brutally honest, because I think the mats are truth, and anybody listening who's my student understands I'm exactly that way. It's like, if it's good, hey, great job. If it's bad, that sucks. Fix it. And it's hard to eat that bitter pill of like, that sucks, but it's not meant to hurt you. It's just meant to get your fire, light your fire, and say, hey, damn, I got to work on this. Yeah. This is bad. I have to really, really, really try harder. And Damian Maia has to change something up. Yeah. But anyway, this is what I was talking about is statistics versus, our hopes and dreams. Now, in my heart, I hope Daniel Cormier wins. In my heart, every time.
In your heart?
And I hope Daniel Cormier.
That's deep.
Yeah. I always root for I don't always root for the grappler. But I like Daniel Cormier. He impressed me. I like Stipe too. But the same thing with every time Damian Maia steps on the mat, I am 100% rooting for Damian Maia. I love the guy. Wow. But at the same time, I have to put away that fanboy, delusional, I want to pull the wool over my eyes thing, and then I have to put on my hat as, okay, statistician, objective martial scientist, and say, well, this is not going to happen. Yeah. And we look at icons in our sport, like every martial art has their founder. Like the poster child is the founder of Aikido, who a lot of Aikido practitioners believe legitimately that in his day, when he was in Manchuria, some soldiers or bandits or something shot at him, a gun at him, and he dodged those bullets. I mean, I'm not talking about hit on a rock. I'm talking about he chased them, he went right towards them, and Dragon Ball Z type stuff.
Is that not possible?
Or Matrix, he just dodging bullets, woo, woo, I could see the bullets,
Yeah.
And our hero worship, our hagiography, which is, elevating people to the level of spirit, this thing, it's something that we as people, as humans, want to do. We want to elevate the founder to this, especially in Asian culture. It's something uniquely in Asian because the elders have these this cachet, if it's tied to these ancient, great elders, it gives it more cachet, more respect. So it's not just me. I have this lineage of this great fighter back in antiquity who took on, 700 ninjas with bare hands and a blindfold. And that's why our style works. And he was like, oh, really? But we love this. And, I would love to have, if that, the inner 10-year-old in me would love if all this were true. I would love if Bruce Lee were the Bruce Lee we all want him to be, or Wang Fei Hung, which is very famous Chinese martial artist. He's probably the character, the main character of over 100 Chinese martial art films. The hero, he's like the hero of ancient China, middle 17th, 18th century China, right? And he's this mythical guy. And I guarantee that the reality of Wang Fei Hung, he picked his nose, he went to the bathroom just like the rest of us, that isn't this legendary godlike creature that we want him to be. And the same thing in our modern life, you can even look at the old UFC, you go back to people, they talk about Chuck Liddell, oh my God, it's not like the old days. Chuck Liddell was the man. Nobody's like him anymore. Really? Have you watched Chuck Liddell's fights?
Yeah.
You've elevated to this mythical status, and your enthusiasm, your love of your devotion to that idea, and it becomes part of you too, because you as a fan of this guy, you immerse your identity into him and his exploits, and so telling you that no, he wasn't really that good. No, what are you talking about? That's fake news.
Do you have a legend or an idol that you've elevated?
I in my youth for sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Superman.
I started my martial art journey in karate, and so there's some famous old school karate guys like the founder of Shotokan Karate, Funakoshi Gichin, who, as you research, you find out that he actually wasn't really a good fighter. And yet there are all these stories he would look you in the eye and this and that. And actually when you talk to people who were around him, you're like, nah, actually he kind of sucked. He was just a good teacher. He himself was a great student of Okinawans, Itosu, and some other students, Uncle Itosu, I think his name was. And those guys taught him, and he was one of many students. And he was a great educator, but he was a terrible fighter. He just wasn't that good. And it's like a bitter pill to say, the founding of Versailles sucked. But that doesn't diminish his ability to transmit the knowledge and educate. Customado created so many great champions, but himself was not a great champion in the ring. He was a famous boxing champion, Mike Tyson's coach, among others. And so you don't have to be a great fighter or have this massive, hero aura, to teach great fighters. But then again, if you absolutely completely suck, maybe you're not that good either. I don't know.
Why are we obsessed with legends and heroes?
Because our lives are boring.
Yeah.
No, because we want the 1984 Mets. What is that at 84 when the Mets just came
Baseball,
back? Baseball, right?
no
Yeah,
idea.
I don't know. The 86 Mets, something like that, right? We want the movie dreams. We want that. We want to believe. And Bruce Lee is a great example. And Bruce Lee his death is the anniversary of his death is coming up. July 20th. And there's no question. And I am a fan of Bruce Lee in many ways, right? In that he, as a thinker, as a person who strove to achieve, and most importantly, as a person who fought against racism. He's an absolutely inspirational character. That being said, his students and his fans have exaggerated his martial exploits, and if you look at videos of him training, you're like, oh, that's okay, but it's not anything really special for the time. Not saying compared to today, but compared to that time, to compare to his peers, he was good, but he wasn't what we equate him to be, like the deadliest man on the planet. And there's an interesting book that came out, and it's called Showdown at Oakland. And so it's kind of an interesting book, and it's definitely the writer is very biased because the writer is a student of Wang Jackman, who I don't know if the listeners know, but one of the most seminal moments in Bruce Lee's career was a challenge fight against Wang Jackman, Wang Jackman was a traditional Chinese martial artist, and they had a fight. And according to the 1990s Bruce Lee movie and also many other sources, this fight was supposed to happen because Bruce Lee was teaching foreigners. That is not the case. That is actually proven demonstrably to be false. Now, did Bruce Lee teach foreigners? Yeah, I mean, teach white people, non-Asians, I should say, right? Yes, absolutely. Were there people in the community, Asian community, not happy about this? That's possible. But and definitely he was very, very open in teaching martial arts. And expanding martial arts. And one of his dreams was to fill California with martial arts schools. And that was a dream that Bruce Lee had stated early on in his career. And so that's great. But this fight was not motivated by, the Chinese elders, like in that, was it Enter
the Dragon?
No, not Enter the Dragon. The one with the 90s one, the biopic with Bruce Lee. It's not Enter the Dragon. It's Birth of the Dragon. No, Birth of the Dragon is the one that just came out. It's what is it? The 90s biopic with that they recreate Bruce Lee's wife. It was actually a great movie.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, really good movie. And just some of the things are more dramatized. But basically the movie it's really said that he was championing teaching non-Asians martial arts, and that is demonstrably false. In this book, it's Showdown in Oakland. It's a really interesting book. It's written by hold on a second. It is written by I'm looking at this author's name. Shoot, I can't find it. Anyway, you guys should look at it. It's on Amazon, and it's called Showdown in Oakland, the Bruce Lee fight. And I'll tell you the guy's name right now. I'm scrolling through my phone. Sorry, listeners. Rick L. Wing. And Rick Wing is a student of Wang Jackman's. And so, but what he does is he's a Californian and San Francisco native. And this fight happened because Bruce Lee basically said that, traditional Kung Fu sucks. And my take at the time, his take at the time, was superior. And he was doing a demonstration. And the book goes into absolute detail, historical and factual details. So this is what I like. We were talking about statistics before, and those are demonstrably, we can have this evidence. And he talks to many people, interviews. Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, right. That's the old name of the movie. Great, awesome. And the movie that just came out, there's a movie just about this showdown between Wang Jackman and Bruce Lee. It's called, I believe it's called Birth of the Dragon. And by all accounts, it's a terrible movie. It's an absolutely terrible movie. But it's made in Asia, and definitely this clash of two masters, and it's very dramatic. And I have not seen it, but I'm actually going to go see it. I should have seen it before I came here, but I couldn't.
Is it like in theaters or on TV?
Yeah, it's past theaters. I think it was in theaters for like a week in New York, but it was more sold in Asia. And
wow.
Yeah, it came out
26% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's really bad, right? My friend saw it. He's like, yeah, I saw it because I kind of felt like as a martial artist I had to, but I was gritting my teeth and trying not to hate it. Mm-hmm. But they sell it as this dramatic thing, and then it's this turning point in Bruce Lee's life. And yes, for sure, it was a turning point in his life, but for different reasons than I suspect. And Linda Wee Caldwell, she's Bruce Lee's wife, she said the fight was 3 minutes and Bruce Lee kicked the snot out of it. And Bruce Lee talks about himself, and his quote was, I chased this kung fu cat around and I punched him in the back of the head for a while, and then I got tired, and that was that. And that's his thing. And he wasn't really very proud of his performance. And in Showdown in Oakland, I won't spoil it for the readers, but the guy has a lot of interviews with people other than Linda Lee Caldwell, and he basically puts her perspective into doubt because she was like kind of pregnant at the time, and he says she probably walked out early in the fight, kind of thinking it was over when it wasn't, not really calling her a liar, but just saying there was more of the fight than she actually saw. Mm-hmm. And the fight, according to other people, went quite long, and both participants got completely exhausted. And this, according to what everybody says, was Bruce Lee's transformative moment where he created a different way of approaching martial arts. And you can see it in his movies. A lot of times his footwork is more boxing-oriented or savate. He introduced more Western arts, and he's all about multiculturalism and combining and being MMA. And this is rightly why he was kind of like our spiritual father of MMA in America. Now, there were people doing MMA before Bruce Lee. The most famous is Gene LaBelle. So who had an MMA match, the first televised MMA match in America. So Bruce Lee is not the guy who created MMA in America, but he's on the same plane as a lot of other thinkers who all over the world were experimenting and breaking down barriers. So was Bruce Lee a pioneer in this thinking about MMA? Absolutely. No question. He is a pioneer. Was he the only pioneer or the godfather of MMA and MMA, whatever? No, he is not. You got to give Elliot Gracie credit. You got to give all the guys doing shoots, which were real fights in pro wrestling, and mixing styles all over the world in Russia, the Sambo tradition, combat something. Like everybody was kind of thinking like, let's break down barriers and combine styles. And that has been going on since the 70s. And many people kind of created their own eclectic martial arts, but it wasn't really until the Gracies created these huge Vale Tudo spectacles that it came, into America, right? So, there's no question in my mind that the father of MMA is Rorion Gracie in America because he created the UFC, right? That's just there. We said it. But spiritual founders, Bruce Lee's one of them. So is many other, and he went on after this fight to reorganize the way he trained. So a lot of people are saying, why did he do that? And he said himself in that short bite where he was like, yeah, we got tired and this and it didn't work. In the book, Rick Wing is very critical of that interpretation, saying, well, if you won the fight, why would you have to change anything? So basically, he's saying Bruce Lee got his ass whooped. I don't want to spoil the ending. You should read it. But he's basically like, that's kind of and you're like, oh, well, he's biased. He's the son of the student of the guy who fought and all this. And in the movie, this dramatic depiction that's coming out, it becomes this sort of like, I didn't see it, but it's sort of like a tie, but they both learn and they both grow and they both go,
a flowery.
And Bruce Lee's kind of a jerk. And after this fight, by fighting this guy who's much more like an honorable martial artist, he becomes more honorable and blah, 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 blah. Whatever. I can't speak to any of those more spiritual elements, but I can talk to you that Bruce Lee's approach is radically different. Pre the fight, he was already experimenting with things, but he was sticking to more kung fu traditions, and that he learned in China. And after the fight, you see him mix grappling. He was a student of Jean LaBelle's. You see him mixing boxing, and everybody says Bruce Lee had an enormous collection of boxing fights on video. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fights that he would watch and study all the time. His favorite fighter, Sugar Ray Robinson. And if you look at his footwork and a lot of dudes, like kind of Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, he's integrating that. And he also studied Savat. He studied all these different arts to take, according to what Jeet Kune Do is, the best of each and meld them together. Be efficient in all ranges of combat. But what really happened? Well, there's this guy, Rick Wing, who says he got the snot kicked out of him. What I think happened is, exactly what Bruce Lee said. It didn't work the way it was supposed to work. He was deluded. He was deluded by in ancient China, we had this Grand Master, this guy who fought, 700, and, it works like this and this and this. And then when he really did it, he's like, damn, that was different what they told me. And we all create legends, and Bruce Lee was a victim of this legend creation. His teacher said, well, this is the way it works. Because how do I know? Well, my teacher told me. Well, how do you know? How does he know? His teacher told him. And when there's this telephone game of like, yeah, there's this great guy in antiquity who created these amazing things, and we all believe it, and we create this legend, and we train around this legend, but there's no proof.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee's like, holy shit, that didn't work the way it was supposed to work. And then, ironically, now Bruce Lee is this legend. Because we always, as humans, do this. We create these legends. And I'll tell you, the art he created, Jeet Kune Do, was supposed to be more a personal thing, but it became, just in the 80s, Jeet Kune Do was this disgusting mess. And I'm going to offend all the Jeet Kune Dos out there. But they would train like 18 different martial arts at the same time, and they just were not effective. And it took a lot of guys to rework it and say, okay, we're going to base our stuff around Muay Thai. When Jiu-Jitsu came, it was Jiu-Jitsu and Savat in boxing and a little bit of stand-up wrestling or catch wrestling as they use there. And then that's kind of what we work around. And we'll discard Dumag, we'll discard this, we'll discard that. And if we're fighting, we'll do Kali. But, there were lots of Jeet Kune Do guys Burton Richardson is a very famous one where he was a, and this is, I have tremendous respect. Before I say this, let me say I have tremendous respect for Burton Richardson and what he did. It was amazing. So he's a certified, very high level instructor in Jeet Kune Do in the 80s, all over Black Belt magazine, all over this and this. And then, the MMA movement takes over. And he basically understands that he doesn't know how to fucking fight. And you know what he does? He does the right thing. He says to everybody, I just realized that my skills are not where they need to be. I'm retiring from teaching. I'm going to be a student. I'm going to re-channel into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and really understand how to approach fighting better so I can be the best teacher I can for you. And he came out and said it. It was amazing. This guy, the real, true martial arts, tremendous cover. And now he is awesome. I mean, his jiu-jitsu is fantastic. His striking is fantastic. But he came out and basically said, guys, what I taught you before, man, that was not the way. This
Wow.
is and that like hard because he was also like, hey, we're supposed to work like this. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee said we should do this and this, and then they created this legend around Bruce Lee, his death, and they couldn't do what they said they thought they could do, even though they were trying to get away from. You see the irony
It's
here,
so
right?
weird,
It's so
yeah.
weird, but we as humans always do that,
Yeah.
and every martial art. But this is why MMA and a lot of traditional martial artist guys hate MMA. Now, first they hate MMA because you have the Conor McGregors and they're not pleasant and all that, and you have the Diaz brothers who flashed the FU sign at people when they're choking them, and that's not good. I agree with that. But the other thing is, MMA bursts their reality. They burst their bubble. They have to come back to reality. They don't want to. They don't want to. They want to live in their my dim mak works, or that's like that reality, or they want to live in Funakoshi was the man and karate. All you need is karate. And you know how I know that? Because I was there. Because if you met me in 1982, I'm like, karate number one. I was a karate man. That's what I was. And I still had a critical mind, but I had to be brought into using my critical mind in martial arts by a friend of mine, who picked me up and slammed me on my head and went nah, your karate ain't going to work against my wrestling.
Yeah.
My junior high school wrestling is going to kill your karate. And I had to eat that reality. And every time traditional martial artists look at MMA, it's just saying, you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. That doesn't work. This is what works. And, that doesn't mean to say that traditional martial arts don't work. There's certain things that do work. Like the oblique kick is from Wing Chun kick. But the approaches, we a lot of them are flawed fundamentally, and our high geography, our hero worship of our ancestors, because they created something amazing, supposedly, trumps actual training and hitting the bag and putting your work in. And I would say that the mat is truth, like I was saying before. And what that is I'm here to dispel your delusions about yourself and about your martial art, and then we can grow. Because when we leave those delusions aside, then we really grow. And I'm really trying to do what Bruce Lee did, because I think he was trying to do that too. It just, after his death, the art took a weird turn. And I have tremendous respect for Dan Inosanto, who took up the torch. But at the same time, Dan Inosanto's goals were not to create great fighters. He was more kind of like a martial art historian. And he trains different martial arts, and he's on his own path. And he definitely is a great fighter. But there are a lot of people from his lineage who, up until MMA, the MMA revolution, were not great fighters. And what did most Jeet Kune Do guys do? They adopted the MMA paradigm. So if you actually go to almost every Jeet Kune Do school, it's basically MMA plus a couple more things. Because they're like, just kind of what works. And that stuff don't work over there. Okay,
Right.
well, we're going to leave that Wing Chun trapping behind because, this is better. Wrestling trapping is
So
better.
it's an MMA school with a picture of Bruce Lee.
Bruce
on the
Lee,
wall.
yeah. And you know what? My school has a picture of Bruce Lee too.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot diminish his contribution to martial arts.
Sure.
He's tremendous, but at the same time, he got caught up in this hero worship after his death. Bruce Lee only became famous in America after his death. People didn't know. Enter the Dragon came out after he died.
Mm-hmm.
So there's people didn't know Bruce Lee while he was alive, really. I mean, maybe some fans of Kato and the Green Hornet, but not like he is, known,
Sure.
And going back to that fight, I think the turning point was for him is hey, this didn't work the way it was supposed to work. And I had that moment, and so many other people, martial artists, have that moment. This didn't work the way it was supposed to. You told me, meaning the master, it was supposed to go like this, but it didn't.
How many people had that moment and then think, oh, I did it wrong?
Yes. Wow, Matt, that is a great, and they turn, I had a friend, and he's like, I just suck.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. Now, it could be that, if you're not training hard enough. But if you're training really, really hard, there's a great podcast. A guy named Stephen Kesting runs a podcast, the Strenuous Life podcast. And I recommend everybody check it out. And he talks about his martial journey of being in Kung Fu and how kind of the wool was pulled over his eyes for a while. His Kung Fu instructor was not just, in the Kung Fu world, but legitimately didn't seem to be so interested in teaching, just more about taking money. So this is not to rag on just the Kung Fu world. This particular teacher was also like, what we call McDojo, taking money and, not giving a good service. But at the same time, critically, he was like, this is not work. How does this work? How does this work? How does this work? And it didn't work for him. So, of course, he wound up abandoning that Kung Fu path and going to another martial art. And finally, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And he's, I've never rolled with him, but from all accounts, he's a fantastic practitioner and also a wonderful ambassador to the sport. And great podcast. It's the Strenuous Life podcast. And he talks about his journey, many, many episodes of how he was, the wool was pulled over his eye. And he had this moment like, that didn't work the way it was supposed to. And I said in another podcast recently, like, we get on our MMA high horse. But like, MMA is awesome. But, MMA is just the paradigm of training. And if you're not training hard or you're not looking at the evolution of the sport, like, we talked about certain fighters who just don't evolve, like, Damian Maia, then, hey, your shot isn't working the way it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. So we have to apply that reality-based, let's get our head out of the sand. Let's not hero worship. Oh, Damian Maia, I love you because you won the world championships and you represent jiu-jitsu. And this is not to knock Damian Maia. I think he's a great guy. Look, guys, I'm a huge Damian Maia fan. But at the same time, there's problems with his hips don't come in on a shot. Mm-hmm. And I got in trouble because there was someone who's listening to the podcast who we criticized, and I happened to know him, and he was not happy about that. And, but dude, this, you lost. Like what am I supposed to say? You looked amazing. It's data, and we have to eat it. And I was teaching a technique a couple days ago, and I said, "Stop. Okay, everybody, forget what we just saw. That was shit. That sucked. Okay, I got to do this again. Because I'm not perfect, but I had to stop the class and tell everybody, see, I just did it wrong. Hey, I'm not perfect. I suck. I sometimes have these moments of terribleness, and it was just drilling, but I have to eat that reality and let the students know that, hey, I'm on this journey too. But it's extreme accountability in Jocko Willnick's parlance, meaning you are accountable to the truth, not to what you want the truth to be. Mm-hmm. Like our political climate very often is. We want the truth to be something else. Mm-hmm. We want it to be this, but what you want and what is not the same. And when you search for what is, you grow more, and you evolve, and you take the hard road. And hagiography, elevation of people to this godlike, saint-like status. Oh, Wang Feihang defeated 100 opponents in a row, blindfolded. It's like, guys, come on. Even if that were true, what does that have to do with you today? Nothing. How much bag work did you do today? But also, that's not true. That is demonstrably false. That is not possible to take 100, opponents on at the same time blindfolded, or whatever. I don't know,
little kittens or something.
Yeah, but also, even if it were true, there's no evidence, so who cares? Let's live in the world of evidence. Mm-hmm. And when you live in the world of evidence and not hero worship, you grow. And I'll say, like we said just before, one of the reasons why we worship heroes is because we give up on ourselves. Because, I like LeBron James because I'll never be a great basketball player. Well, that's kind of a crappy life there, buddy. You don't have to be LeBron James, but you could go out there and be amazing at something else. All the guys I know who I respect, who they're dedicated to? Their own personal growth. They're heroes. I mean, they're be your own fan. Don't be like, oh, I love GSP. No, of course everybody loves GSP. He's great, but you're like, then do what GSP does. Be inspired. Don't be a slavering fanboy. Be inspired to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And we, when we were this slavering, this fanboy kind of thing, we live vicariously off of their triumphs, but that's not our triumph. And I think that's a weakness in us. And we have to search for what is, not what we want to be what is,
Yeah.
and what we want to be true. And when we do that, you really grow. And it's the irony of the Bruce Lee story is that he was searching, and then his image, his iconic persona, became a point of hero worship. And we are on this hero journey, but be your own hero. So that's kind of like, it's very ironic. But I also say read the book Showdown in Oakland, because it's kind of like an interesting take on like trash talking. Not trash talking, but it's like and he really goes deep and interviews a lot of people. So there might be some truth to what he says. And
Don't watch
it's well written too. It's well written too. And give the movie a shot. Who knows? And that being said, I am a huge Bruce Lee fan for what he did of martial arts and what he did to introduce a positive aspect of Asian culture into the world, and that's a great thing. For our image of China in the 60s, 40s, 50s, sick man of Asia, and a lot of Asian men feel that their image has been emasculated through racism and imperialism, and he's like, hey, this is something, a positive role model for not just Asian but everybody, and we can follow this culture. And his influence has been tremendous from not just the martial world, but the hip hop world, the Doors, Bruce Lee, the pop culture world. He's someone who reached across barriers, and it's not to say that he wasn't a legend in as an ambassador of martial arts and Asian culture and multicultural, because Bruce Lee is actually part Caucasian too. He's not fully Chinese. He's I think one quarter Caucasian. So he's multicultural himself. So his whole search was building bridges and things like that. And so that's a wonderful thing. But the other side is he was about this good. Don't make him this good. I'm opening my hands wide for those people who can't see my hands. They're listening to us.
Don't open this.
Yeah.
Was his family cursed?
Do you believe in curses? Do you believe in witchcraft and Hogwarts?
I don't believe in Hogwarts, but yeah, I do believe in curses and that kind of thing.
Like magic and stuff? Not
magic, but like there's powers and shit out there that I don't know about.
There's a lot of things you don't know about. But that doesn't mean
he's holding back, laughing and mocking so bad.
Yes.
But I don't believe in ghosts, but like the spiritual world. Yeah.
Well, no, okay. Our spiritual world is something I think internal, and there's spirituality. But do I believe in malevolent forces that influence our daily life no, I don't. No. And again, I'm a data-oriented scientist. Like that is,
What about Brandon?
Brandon?
What about Brandon?
Oh yeah, well he was not as
there was a ghost
careful.
Bullet.
A ghost bullet. And actually, do you know they found out why Bruce Lee died? It's interesting because there's this mystery about Bruce Lee. Do you know Bruce Lee? So everybody's like, oh, he died mysteriously. Do you know actually they another person just came out with the Bruce Lee book, and they found out the cause of Bruce Lee's death is most likely heat stroke. Not the triads killing him or target him because of this and that or blah, blah, blah. No. Because people don't realize that Bruce Lee had an operation on his armpits to remove a lot of sweat glands because they were getting in the way of him filming when he had the sweat on the shirts. So he removed a lot of sweat glands on his armpits. So obviously sweat, is one way we, don't overheat. The day he died was one of the hottest, weeks in Hong Kong, time, and he overheated and died. And so this is a book that came out and said, most likely it's the Occam's razor. What is Occam's razor? The most simple reason for something happening is probably the real reason.
So
let's not make
ghosts.
Yeah,
it was ghosts then.
Ghosts. Yes.
That's simple.
Yeah, it is. Oh man, I'm going to choke you. So
God
hard.
Came down from heaven and put a ghost.
No.
in Bruce Lee.
You know what it was? It was when he fought Mong Jack Man. He didn't realize that he was democked.
Oh shit!
And it just took 20 years to.
That's the longest death touch ever. The next generation of Lees.
Yeah, and it transferred generation, right? You know,
Yeah.
the next one is going to die.
Every
No,
generation.
don't say that. That's terrible. You know,
We can't.
but you know, he's got another. Doesn't he have another child or something? A daughter?
Bruce Lee? Yeah,
no,
he had
no,
a
no, no.
daughter.
Linda. No, is it? No, I think it's Dan Inosanto's daughter is Diana Lee Inosanto. That isn't that. Oh no. His daughter's still
he had
alive.
a
Yeah,
daughter.
his daughter, Diana Lee. Right. That's yeah. So why isn't she cursed? I don't know. Anyway, I don't even know what I'm talking
It
about.
only
This is-
affects the males.
It's that Y chromosome.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is next. That's Denmark. Is he still alive?
I don't know.
Brian Ortega, Max Holloway.
Oh my God, I can't wait for that fight.
We have a couple minutes. Max Holloway.
Ortega.
Really? Should we bet on that one then?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh God, I'm not shaking anything. You make me nervous.
Shake it.
All right.
All right. I think you know what? Again, that's aspirational because I love to see. I mean, I like both fighters, but I would love to see Brian Ortega win. He's a person who really inspires me.
Yeah, I think he's a great person,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's obviously a great fighter. But I
Yeah.
think that Max Holloway just has the experience.
Yeah, you're right. I would. I took the bet, but I would. I'm soft on that one too.
Is there anybody else good on the next card?
There's some
that's-
really good ones. Yeah.
Pull up real quick. 226.
Ghosts. Oh my God, Matt.
There's ghosts in here right now, probably.
The
They're
ghosts
coming to get us.
My chi is being upset here.
Nagano versus Derek Lewis.
Oh, Nagano's gonna probably
Yeah,
take
he'll
that
destroy
one,
him. Anthony Pettis versus Michael Chiesa?
Chiesa.
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 Apologies.
Yeah. He was wasn't Mike Chiesa also injured in the Conor McGregor incident? I think he was one of those guys.
Sure.
Too. Yeah. Mike Chiesa is a good fighter. That's an interesting fight.
Uriah Hall, New York native. I've messaged him a bunch of times to come on the show. Uriah Hall. I hope you win.
Whenever I hear the name Uriah, I think
Faber.
no, I think of the Dickens novel Uriah Heep. You know that
He went really high level with it. The Dickens novel.
No, Uriah Heep.
No, I never read Dickens. I dropped out of high school.
What the Dickens?
I
That was a joke.
don't know.
Oh, do you like my shirt? Hold on. Do you like my shirt?
To err is human. To R is pirate.
See, I thought you'd get a kick out
I
of
do
that.
like it.
Thank you.
Yes. Shout out to your fighter, G.
Yeah,
Got his belt.
He got his belt.
Congratulations.
It was.
I saw the video. It was a
you saw
very
the
quick video.
Yes, it was. People ask me what round was it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is the first round." They're like, "Whoa, that was fast." And this is again data. Let me tell you what we did. We looked at the opponent objectively and saw a glaring weakness. Now, that doesn't mean he's not a good fighter or anything like that. But we saw a glaring weakness in the stance and the movement, and we took advantage of it. And that was that. And it doesn't mean he's a bad fighter. It's just we searched the data. It was actually the same strategy we used for because we were supposed to fight a different fighter. It was a little bit late change, but the same strategy worked for both because they both had the same flaw, which is actually common in a lot of mixed martial artists. The specific flaw with the hand posture, and means you're very very vulnerable to certain types of strikes. So we not to give too much away, but we analyzed that flaw and it worked like a charm. And it was exactly the techniques we drilled them exactly like he did. So it was like drilling. We had a great time. G actually was very, very, very not hurt at all. In the last 3 fights, he's taken no damage whatsoever.
Wow.
So we're very happy, and we're hope to continue the upward momentum.
The
And not just-
legend of G growing and growing as we
Yeah,
build
no, right.
legends today.
Exactly right.
3 wins in a row. What's next for him?
He's going to fight again in November, probably also depending on the injury and scheduling in Key West in Florida, possibly. We'll see, but it's more like it's up to him and his ride and his journey, and I have a lot of other fighters coming up as well. And I just want to be. I'm very honored to be part of their martial journey and their growth. And again, we constantly analyze the performance, win or lose, and to see what we can work on, what we can improve on, and grow as martial artists. Because there's going to be a day where he and like myself, we're retired from fighting, but you don't stop to be a martial artist. You don't stop your growth, and you don't stop the objective analysis of not only your game but your evolution and how you see martial arts. There's a great quote that every 10 years you should change the way you think about your training and minimum. And I really agree with that. Not only about age, but you should be maturing. And there are things that I believed were true in, like I said, I would do it like this way 10 years ago. I'm like, I would never do that. And I would do this now. And you just mature, you age, you get better. And, the martial arts journey is this great journey of self and discovery. And most importantly, honest, face the mirror, look in front of you and face the truth and be your fan. Be a fan of yourself, not worship someone else and live vicariously through someone else. And to me, that's a really important part of the path is like you are in your journey of being awesome. And to do that, though, you have to be honest with yourself, not delusional. And that's one of the reasons why, there's certain Irish fighters who I can't stand. And I think, his ego's blown him into delusion land. And, which means he's going to, the next time he fights MMA, pretty sure he'll probably lose, if he does fight,
He's not in jail.
He's
though.
not in jail, right? I'm going to lose that bet.
Someone actually was in here a couple weeks ago. Was Conor McGregor's lawyer.
In here?
Yeah.
Oh, did you talk to him about the case?
Not really, no.
Oh, you can't talk about it.
I don't know. He wouldn't want to get into it. But I'm interested to hear what he's got to say maybe after the trial has ended. Maybe we can get him in here and pick his brain.
So he's his defense attorney.
Yeah, he was. He actually had. He said Conor McGregor was in his office. They were working out the plea for the felony arrest in Brooklyn, and he said his hands are ginormous.
Yeah.
He said, I never realized how big his hands were until I actually shook his hands and saw them in person.
Most people with what you call natural punching power generally have large hands. Yeah. It's a bone structure. It's not always the case, but generally you have large hands. You'll be gifted with more punching power.
Interesting.
I had one student, and his hands were incredibly large for his size, and compared to his size, his punching power was insane. And then his hands were just really large. Like Fred Flintstone size.
Mr. Renee over here, a celebrity on BuzzFeed. Are you going to break down the new Creed movie coming out?
There's a new Creed movie coming out?
Didn't you see the trailer for Creed?
No.
Creed 2.
I haven't seen the first one. I heard it's really good, though.
I haven't seen the first one either.
Yeah, no, but everybody says it's really good.
The second one, he's fighting Drago's son.
No kidding.
So he's getting revenge for his father's death. Yeah.
That's funny. Oh boy, this is a new.
They're just remaking.
Is Rocky in it too again? This one?
Yeah,
he was in the first one, right?
I hear that the word on the street is that Rocky may die in this one to give him more of a push. Like Rocky's his mentor, and now he's going to die, and it's going to be his reason to push to win against Drago Jr.
Cool.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but you like to break down fights.
Yeah, it was the BuzzFeed thing that became very popular, which was cool. I actually the short where I'm coming was actually very heavily edited, so I actually made a lot more comments on the fights and I would like to do it again. They wanted me to do we did some other fights that didn't show up, and also there were some people who said we should do the movie like The Raid. I don't know if you've ever heard The Raid. It's like this big martial art movie. I've never seen it, but it's like one fight that just doesn't stop for like 45 minutes or something.
Kung Fu Hustle?
Oh, I hate that movie.
Oh no, you hate that movie? Well, it's
a
goofy movie.
No, but I just
I saw a lot of comments people were making that they should have picked better scenes in the movie.
Yeah, exactly right. One of the
maybe they should.
Raid, yeah.
Did they consult you about which scenes to pick?
No,
they just came in with.
They came in with already.
Yeah, they should consult you with which scenes because I'm sure you could pick out better ones.
But I'm happy to do whatever the fans. Sure. I said this. Why don't we get another one where we devote on the scenes that people want to see, and then I'll
do
the comments, something like that. Yeah, and but I don't watch enough martial art movies and fight movies to there were a lot of them. I've never seen The Raid, but everybody wanted to do that one.
Yeah.
But it comes down to, again, we make the movies the movies are what we want them to fight to look like.
They've changed a lot over the last couple decades.
Yeah. But they originally they're what we want the fight to look like. Now, what we wanted to look like in the 90s was beautiful and kung fu-y. Now, since
Crushing
MMA,
Tiger,
right, exactly. Now, since MMA is the arbiter of like manliness. So MMA has taken over. So the more modern fights have much more MMA, like John Wick and all these things, because the fans are demanding it look like that because that's what they want to see. That cinema reality is obviously not reality, but unfortunately it has very strong influential power, which we talked about in one podcast. But that you have to see movies as a medium to make people happy. to give them what they want, to sell them popcorn, you know? So not as intrinsically demonstrating what really works in a fight.
Yeah. It's not. Don't copy Captain America.
Yeah.
In any way. But we got. Did you sign a non-complete? Because we got a camera, we got microphones. Let's do a video right here.
I did not sign anything.
All right, let's go.
We could do it.
Start our own BuzzFeed. It's gonna call it Fuzz Feed. Fuzz Buzz. I don't know. I'm getting to the point where I'm punchy. Thanks.
So we're on for two bets. We're on for Stipe and Cormier, and we're on for Ortega and Holloway.
Sure.
And I took the dive under. I took the dark horse on both these.
You did.
Yeah.
You're trying to throw me a bone. I'm going to be very. I'm not coming back from Ohio if they lose. I'm just going to live there now. Somebody else will run the studio. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, we're on.
Okay, great.
Thanks everybody for listening. Please rate, share, subscribe, and
yes, rate, please.
Yeah,
please rate.
We need more ratings.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
See you next week.
See you next week. Bye bye.